Hey, Lab Coat Agents! Thanks for being here. We've got Nick Baldwin, myself, Tristan, and of course, Michael Hellickson. How are you, Michael?
Fantastic, man. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
We're so blessed to have you here. Just going to do
What's
a quick...
up, Michael?
What's up, Nick?
What's happening?
Michael, you've been in real estate for over 20 years, listing and selling. I think at one point you had 750 listings at one point, which would not, for me, it's mind-boggling. But you began your career.
Wait a minute. At one time?
At one time, yeah. Yeah, that was our it was crazy. It was
That's
insane.
insane.
But you got to understand, we had to keep up with that. It wasn't just me, man. We had 44 people taking care of all that.
Yeah, it's a team effort.
That's still a hefty amount of listings. When was that?
That would have been 2010, late 2010.
It wasn't too long ago.
No. Half of that was, and that's right before I left the business. That's right before I got out of selling real estate. Sold my business early 2011, and that at that time about half that business was REO and half of it was retail. So it was a good mix.
And you started back in '91 too, so.
Man, seriously, you're gonna throw my age out there now? You're gonna make sure everybody knows how old I am?
You were born in like what was it? I'm joking.
Dude, I was born at the turn of the century.
But you started high school, which this is a cool fact that I didn't know. Yeah. You started real estate right out of high school, or even while you were in high school? How was that?
So I turned 18 in January and got my license in March and was the top lister in my office by graduation.
So, wait a minute. You were still in high school selling homes?
I was. Dude, you know what's really funny about that is I didn't know what I didn't know, right? I didn't know what I was supposed to do or what I wasn't supposed to do. So I was out there, I was taking these listings while I was in high school at like 8 and 10%. I had no idea what I was supposed to charge. I just figured, well, it's easier to charge 8% and make more than it is to charge 7 or 6 or whatever, so I just did it.
You know what my angle would have been if I was listing homes in high school? I would have gone into the listing appointment. I would have been like, listen, I'm in high school. I know lots of people who have moms and dads who want to buy houses, and they'll buy yours. And the seller would be like, that's genius. You know?
It wouldn't.
You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I'm hanging out at a graduation party, and I'm like selling your house to parents. I think that's average.
Dude, and
one of the craziest things was one of my very first sales was actually one of my teachers. How crazy is that?
Wow,
that's cool.
That's amazing.
That's
amazing.
Cool. Yeah. And Michael, at one time, your whole team was literally #1 nationwide, right?
Yeah, we were doing pretty good. We had listings selling about 100 homes a month at the time, and to put that kind of in perspective, on personal listings, like just me going out taking listings, I was hitting about 50 to 75 a month. And by the way, I hope the people watching this, I hope you guys understand. I'm not saying this to brag. If anything, I'm saying this because I want you to know that, look, if I can do it, I'm a knucklehead. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'm certainly not the best salesperson in the world. But I figured it out, right? And so why was I able to do it? Because I had the systems and the team in place to make it happen, and I just followed my system every day. And by doing that, you could put a knucklehead in that position, and they would have gone out and listed just as many homes. In fact, we had a 21-year-old kid that came onto our team. His third month in the business, he listed 21 homes that 1 month. Our average guys on our team were easily going out and listing anywhere from 12 to 15 homes a month. And these weren't, I mean, they were great guys, don't get me wrong, but they weren't like rocks. They weren't Tristan. They weren't the amazing salespeople that just went out and just slaughtered it because they had the world's greatest sales skills.
I just want to back up a minute because Tristan actually told me you were the smartest guy in the world, and now I feel really jacked.
You just took that away from him, Michael. Come on.
Yeah, but it's all right because Nick, you and I both like butterflies, so we're okay, bud. That's fine.
All right, so Michael, you've also spoken to thousands of agents, organizations nationwide. You've been on programs like Glenn Beck, CNBC, The Dave Ramsey Show, Fox Business, and then after all that, you decided that you wanted to do coaching, right? So
Well,
that's
actually,
pretty
I
cool.
started coaching in 2001, and I loved it. You know, and it was great. But I was still trying to sell real estate and be a coach at the same time, and that's fine if you're just a coach. But when you're trying to run a coaching company at a high level, and run a real estate sales business at a high level, that's a really tough thing to do. And I just never felt like I was really giving coaching what it deserved in terms of my attention and my focus. And so, you know, and here about a year ago, of several of our clients, like Mike Bjorkman, I know you know Mike, and Jesse Zagorski, who I know you know, and some of these guys start calling me up and saying, hey, man, you need to get back into coaching. We want you to be back in coaching. We want to get you full-time. And so I did, and I got to tell you, it was a game changer for me. It just absolutely changed my life. But, you know, it really is. It's the kind of thing where you've got to really commit yourself. If you do it just halfway, nobody's getting the value that you get, and you're certainly not bringing what you need to bring. So,
awesome, man.
Yeah.
All right, so Nick's got the first question for you.
Yeah, so, I mean, this goes back to how you got into real estate when you were in high school, right? So, 18 years old is unbelievable to me. So what were the challenges that you faced at that young of an age? Like when you would go on listing consults, you know, what were challenges or objections that were thrown at you? Because the real estate agent, I feel the age of the average real estate agent is kind of, it's getting younger and younger. We're seeing a big batch of young agents these days.
Yep.
So what were some objections that you were able to overcome at the age of 18 when you first got into the business that might help them?
Well, first and foremost, the objections that I got, let me turn my volume down. I think I'm getting a little bit of echo on my volume here.
Yeah, you got a little bit of an echo.
There's a little feedback, yeah.
All right, is that a little better for you guys?
That sounds much better.
Okay, so here's the
Thanks,
thing.
man.
First and foremost, the objections that I got weren't from my clients or potential clients. The objections that I got and the challenges that came before me were all because of the agents in my office. It was the 40-year-old agents that thought, well, how can this 18-year-old kid be out there doing it? I'm a 40-year-old professional, and some kid's going to go do an adult's job? That was probably the biggest challenge that I had to overcome, was the mindset around, yes, it is possible for an 18-year-old kid to go out there and do really well in real estate. In terms of the clients, it wasn't really that bad. The clients was simply, you know, one of the questions they had was, you know, like any new agent, you know, you don't have any production yet, or they wanted to know about my production, or they wanted to know, you know, see some evidence of success. And the way I overcame with that was, instead of saying me and my success, I was talking about our success and our listings and our transactions. I was talking about the entire office. And so by framing it in terms of what the entire office's production was, and saying, you know, well, as you know, I'm with, and at the time it was the Prudential, or actually it was Benton's Realty was the first place I started. So I said, you know, at Benton's Realty, you know, we do a lot of business, and right now we've got blah, blah, blah listings, blah, blah closings, and I was able to show some evidence of success, even though it wasn't just mine. Did I lose it?
You know what? You know what's interesting? Like, I found that, I mean, I got into real estate when I was 27, and you know, I know. Well, you know, I took the 10-year plan. I did the 10-year college plan.
Hey, I did that too.
You know, I wasn't ready to grow up. Had a bachelor pad. Then I met my wife, and you know, she was too cute to not get my you-know-what together. So I was gonna say that for me, even though I've been in the business 10 years, it wasn't until like 2 years ago when I actually bought my first house that I noticed my business increase, because even though I had been through it with buyers hundreds and hundreds of times, it was when I went through it myself that I was really able to put myself in their shoes. And that, I'm not saying go buy a house to like have a better business. I'm saying the experience really did help me. So that's why when you were 18, there's no grasp on what owning a home is really like. So that's why I think it's amazing to me that you succeeded at such a young age.
You know, I think the real message is that anybody can do that, though. I mean, you know, I don't care how old you are or how new to the business you are or whether you own a home or don't own a home. I think the reality is this is what screws us up right here. It's right between our head. It's our mindset. It's not everybody else. It's not what everybody else thinks about us or what their belief system is that creates our reality. It's my belief system. It's your belief system. It's whatever you decide you can do, go do it. I just decided one day I was going to go list houses at 8 and 10%, and I just did it. And I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to do that. So I think it's just all up here, man. I don't think any of the noise matters as long as you believe you can accomplish it. Go freaking do it.
Yeah, man. I love it.
That's a common message we hear every time we interview somebody at a high level like yourself. We hear that all the time. It starts with the mindset. So, Michael, what was your claim to fame, dude? What did it for you? What boosted you over to the top to just blow up?
Well, it depends. There was lots of points. I don't know that there was any one thing. I think there were a lot of different points where, we all reach plateaus in our business, right? We all get to that point where, we've been doing it a while and we hit a certain production level and we just can't break through that production level. For some people, it's, getting past 10 transactions a year. Then it's 100 transactions a year. And that's usually a pretty big challenge for people to go from 100 to 200 because now they can do 100 by themselves. Like 60 to 100 you can do as a solo agent. But to get from 100 to 200, now I got to build a team. Now I got to hire assistants, probably hiring buyer's agents. I need to have a team around me. And so that's one of those points at which you just you either have a breakdown or a breakthrough at that point, right? And then for me, the next one after I got to about 200 transactions a year, the next leap was to get to about 450. And then once I got to 450, it was just numbers. At that point, it was very simple, and that's right at the time I got into REO, so I was really quickly able to go from 450 transactions a year to doing over 100 transactions a month. And that happened almost overnight, which came with its own set of challenges. The big challenge there is how do I maintain customer service while I'm growing at that fast rate? And for us, I'll tell you how we solved it. We screwed it up. we completely blew it at that point in our business, and we had to learn. We burned a lot of bridges in the industry at that point in time. We had to learn how to build the right people in our team to deliver a higher level of customer service to get past the wake of dead bodies we were leaving behind us, so to speak. So what was it that really kind of took us to the next level? It really just became mindset. A lot of it was coaching. At each level, I had different coaches. My very first coach years and years and years ago, like 25 years ago, back when I think he was like 90 years old, was Mike Ferry. And you can totally tell him I said that. I was totally joking, Mike, if you're watching this. But, dude, I mean, seriously, he taught me how to prospect. He taught me how to pick up the phone and dials for dollars. And he taught me that, look, who cares how many no's you get? All you need is a yes. And the more no's you get, the closer you are to that yes. And when you have more time than money, that's what you do. You call expires and FSBOs and your sphere of influence, and you hold open houses, and you do all that stuff that you do when you don't have money. And then as soon as possible, when you've got a little bit of money, you transition from chasing business to attracting business. And that's a whole different mindset. And so that was one of those breakthroughs for me, was how do I go from chasing business to attracting business? And that's a tough one. A lot of people think it's just buying leads, and there's a lot more to it than that.
Cool. Good answer. You're up next.
Yeah, I feel like I'm talking too much, Nick. I want to make sure I'm not monopolizing the call here.
No, you're good.
It's your turn.
You're talking too much.
It's your turn. In lab coat agents, there's a lot of the questions are what coach should I get? Which coach should I hire? And I think that's like a really broad question, right?
Yeah.
That's like saying, I need a website. What should I get? Okay, well, what do you want that website to do? Do you want lead capture? Do you want autoresponders? Do you want, so because there's so much talk about real estate coaches and what is right for you, they all have different approaches, right? So, who's got their volume? There's feedback. There's a little feedback. No? Okay, just me.
Michael,
you're good.
You have yours on?
I got you. I can hear you.
Yeah, I just heard an echo. So anyway, okay. I mean, you got Tom Ferry, maps. Everybody, every system has a different approach. So how does an agent choose which coach is right for them, and how do they break out of that rut or that plateau and get to the next level?
Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, on the coach piece, there's a ton of really great coaches out there. There really are. There's no one perfect coach for everybody. That being said, I think first and foremost, you have to recognize, where am I in my business? You know, am I in tier 1 where I'm making $0 to $150,000 a year? I'm kind of just getting by. I'm figuring out, you know, I've got more time than money, and I'm trying to figure out how do I get to that next level? Am I in tier 2 where now I'm hiring my first assistant, maybe my first couple of buyer's agents? You know, I'm doing between 150 and 500,000 in GCI. Maybe I'm in tier 3. I've got a team. I'm doing between 500 and a million in GCI, but I really don't know how to get my team to be fully engaged and really to crush it. They're just kind of getting by right now. And so now, and not only that, but now I've also got to start worrying about profitability. So as I'm going through these different levels, different coaches make a difference at different levels. And it's interesting because we'll use, you know, like Mike Frey, for example. Great coach, does, you know, really his thing is prospecting, right? Pick up the phone, dial for dollars, get the, you know, handle the objections. Awesome, that's an important skill set. Or you've got Brian, who talks a lot about referrals, and it's really about building your referral-based business. Well, that's great, and that's an important skill set too. Or you've got Craig, who talks about direct marketing and that type of thing. You know, everybody's got kind of this thing that they're known for that's really the thing that they specialize in. Well, here's the problem with that. When you go down just one of those paths, all of a sudden you're pigeonholed into that one thing, and what you don't understand is you really have to have a piece of all of that in your business, and it's how those pieces fit together and at what time you're ready for the next piece, at what time this piece is appropriate for you. And you may not want a cold call, or maybe you do, but you may not want to do direct marketing, or maybe you don't like direct mail, or maybe you're not good on Facebook. Whatever it is, there's all these different pieces of the business that you really need to get exposed to, and you need to figure out what's right for you. And so what we do is we've got kind of our whole system is figure out, number one, what is best for this person at this time? What are they actually willing to do? What will they actually execute on at a high level so that we can now take their business to that next level? And then we implement systems, because each of these different things has systems to it. Everything in your business has a system to it. And so we give them that system, and there's that checklist for, okay, how do I hire an assistant? Well, okay, here's the ads to run. Here's what to say in the ads. Here's how you're going to compensate them. Here's what you do in the interview. Here's the checklist for the questions you ask them in the interview. You know, here's the contract you use when you hire them. All that. People need all of these systems. And so they now have the system. They can tweak that system and kind of make it theirs. And that's one of the things I think makes us very different than a lot of these other coaches out there, is that we've all been in all of these different systems. Every one of our coaches, and this is probably the single biggest differentiator, is every single one of our coaches has been a coach, or has been a practicing real estate at a higher level than the people they're coaching. So if you want to make $1 million a year, your coach has already made $1 million a year. And so you take that, you put the systems in there with it, and I think that makes a big difference. So how do I choose my coach? How do I pick which coach I want to work with? Decide, one, where you want to go. Understand where you are, where you want to go, figure out what you're willing to do to get there, and then have the conversation. I think the best thing you can do is interview more than one coach. You know, talk to Mike's guys, talk to Tom's guys, talk to Brian's guys, talk to our guys. Find out, you know, what everybody's telling you, and then get a feel for which one's the right fit for you. That's the only real way you're going to pick a coach that's going to be a good long-term fit for you.
All right. That's a great answer, man. Question: I can hear feedback on somebody's. There it is. It's gone. All right, perfect. All right, so question for you. Yeah, I think that was you, but I think it's gone. Nick, can you hear it?
Yeah, it's good now.
All right, perfect. All right, so I'm hearing it again, but that's okay. So, Michael, why is breakthrough so hard for agents? Now, they get stuck at a certain level. Why is it so tough?
Breakthrough is hard because agents like to, you know, and it's not just agents, it's people in general. We get into a comfort zone. We get into a point where we're making just enough to be happy doing what we're doing, but not enough to be excited about it. And when we hit that level, you know, we get into a routine. We've got, you know, we get up at the same time every day, or sort of at the same time, and we do the same things. But what we're not doing is we're not constantly pushing ourselves. A perfect example of someone that is constantly pushing themselves is Amanda Todd. I know you guys know Amanda really well. Amanda's one of our coaching clients. And Amanda gets up at 4 o'clock every day, no matter what. 4 o'clock, she's up. She's doing her workout. She's doing her scripture study with her kids. She's having prayer with her kids. She's on her way. You know, she's got a game plan, and she sticks to that game plan. And what happens is she has fewer plateaus Because when she gets to that plateau, she just looks at her perfect daily schedule and she says, okay, what do I need to change? What do I need to do to get past that plateau? And then she seeks help to push her past that plateau. The worst thing you can do is say, gosh, you know, I'm overwhelmed right now and I'm just going to stay where I'm at. No, you got to get in here. You got to get deep inside your head and you got to tell yourself, look, if that guy can do it, I can do it. If Tristan can make $5 million a year, dang it, I can make $5 million a year. If he can do that while working 12 days a month and having all this time with his kids, I can do it. So what do I got to do that? Get the help I need to get out of my own head so that I'm doing the things I need to do, and adjust my perfect daily schedule.
So would you say it has to do with your schedule with block time and getting help?
It's all of it. Yeah, and it's things like affirmations, visualization, journaling. I mean, all of these things matter. I mean, you guys have read The Miracle Morning, right? I mean, it's good stuff, and we talk about it it's talked about in The Miracle Morning.
So if you narrow it down to one thing, because I know it's a combination of things.
It is.
When we talk to Jay Papasan, he says, look, do one thing at a time. What do you think out of everything for breakthrough would be the most important thing? And we said, look, do this, start with this. Yes, you can progress to this, but start with this. What would that be?
It depends, and that's a really good question. So Jay is absolutely right. You got to focus on one thing at a time. I just had this same conversation with Amanda yesterday afternoon on our coaching call. You know, it's more than just, you know, I can't jump in and say I'm going to change everything and fix everything all at once. So I've got to determine, where am I deficient? What is my biggest deficiency? For most people, the vast majority of people out there, it's their habits. That's the single biggest challenge most people are having, is they don't have the right habits, and so they get distracted with every fire. They show up at the office usually at a certain time. And then as soon as they get in the office, all of a sudden, every little thing's a distraction. I got an email I got to respond to. I got a Facebook message. Not that Tristan's guilty of that. I've got a text message. Yeah, exactly. I got whatever coming in. I got to just respond all day long. And so all of a sudden, everybody else runs my life. No, that's not how it works. So that's usually the problem for most people. It's their habits. But for some people, I've got a client right now, good habits, absolute horrible mindset. We can't get them. I mean, and this is a high producer. They're struggling with mindset right now. So for that person, their self-talk is wrong. So we got to work on their affirmations. So the very first thing that's got to happen is they got to recreate their affirmations and tell themselves a different story. Because one thing that people probably don't know is your subconscious can't tell the difference between reality and what you tell it to believe. So if I'm telling myself I'm great at this or great at that, and I just repeat that to myself over and over and over again, and that's the story I tell myself over and over and over again, I begin to believe it. My subconscious mind begins to believe it, and that has to happen in order to make it a reality. So I guess that's a long answer to your question, but the bottom line is,
dude.
Yeah, and the bottom line is it's going to be different for everybody. And that's where the coach helps. That's where you need somebody to take a look at you from the outside and say, hey, brother, I know you're working on this, and I know you think that's where you're deficient right now, but that's not your problem at all. It's over here. That's what we need to focus on for the next 3 weeks. Let's get that dialed in, then we'll move over to this next thing.
Got it. Makes sense, man. Nick, you're up.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously you coach a lot of agents, but your coaching tends to be slightly different than, you know, a lot of the other coaches out there. So tell us what makes Club Wealth different than, you know, the other companies out there that are coaching agents every day.
Well, number one, we don't believe that there's one way to do things. You know, and I tell you, there's been coaches in the past that they criticize people for, you know, I mean, I remember there was a time that Mike was saying you can't do REO. Well, look, if you know, in 2007, 2008, if you weren't doing REO, you're a moron. You got to be in REO in 2007, 2008. That's where all the money was. Now, likewise, if all you did was REO in 2007 through 2010, even we'll call it, you're probably out of business today because you let go of your retail business and that went to heck. So first and foremost, we recognize that there's not one way to do it. Second, we don't care where it comes from. If it's a good idea, it's a good idea. I don't care if it's me, if it's Mike, if it's Tom, if it's Brian. I don't care where the idea comes from. If it's good stuff, it's good stuff. Utilize it. Take advantage of it. And that's really hard because this is a piece of that abundance mentality that I think a lot of coaches are missing today, is that, look, we're not in competition with them. I'm not in competition with those guys. I want them to do well. Why? Because they're going to help get people to Tier 2. And when they get people to Tier 2, I can take them to Tier 3, 4, and beyond. So I love that there's these other coaches out there, and I think that's a big piece that makes us different, is that we not only recognize that, but like scripting. I'll give you a perfect example. Who's got the very best scripting for expireds and for sale by owners and cold calls out there? Period, bar none. Who's got the best scripting? It's Mike Ferry. Dude's had it for 30 years, and the stuff still works. I mean, look at Chris Heller. I mean, here's a guy that for the last, 20 years, all he's done is repeat the same script every single day over and over and over again over the phone, and he's killed it. He's done a great job, and now he's the CEO of Keller Williams.
That's true. I didn't think about that. But look, that's true to an extent, because I feel like generations change. So although the scripts are great, don't you feel like they're too strong sometimes?
Yes. Now, I'll be honest with you.
It's a good place to start, but...
Yeah. And you just hit the nail on the head, Tristan. It's a start. You really just hit the nail on the head. So do I think that you should call it, like one of Brian's scripts is every time you talk to somebody, you should say, if you were buying or selling a home or had a friend and family member who was, do you have a realtor you'd refer them to? Listen, if you call every one of your clients up and every single time you call them you use that script, you're just going to alienate everybody. That is the worst, most self-serving thing you can possibly do. That's not how it works today. Gary Vee really hit the nail on the head when he talks about jab, 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 right hook. The thing that's really, really changed today from the 80s is in the 80s and 90s it was always be closing, always be closing, always be closing. That's all you're doing all the time is closing, closing, closing. Today, you got to bring value, 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 and then you get a chance to close. That's how it works. So yeah, I do think that here's all I'm saying about those scripts is if I'm in tier 1, if I'm a brand new agent, brand new to the business, and I want to get some business out of expireds for sale by owners and that sort of thing, guess what? I could use those scripts. Tim Heil's got some great scripts right now. I just did a webinar with Tim and Phone Animals yesterday, in fact, and he's got great scripts for calling circle prospecting. Do those scripts work? Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm a believer in scripting, but I'm really a believer in you need to learn to talk to people. You need to learn to actually really truly care about the person on the other end of the line. Find out what makes them tick. Figure out how to help them out, whether it means you make money today or not. Find a way to bring value to them, and then go to the next one and follow up with that person over a long period of time.
I think now more than ever, the jab, 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 right hook is so important because back in the Glenn Ross days, you only had. You had to get in front of people if they passed your billboard, if they saw your ad in a magazine, the old-fashioned ways. Now it's like you can bring yourself to them. They don't have to bump into you. You can bring yourself to them. So even when you're targeting ads on Facebook, you can still do it with a jab, 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 right hook. Not every ad has to be asking for business. Offer a seller guide. Offer, a list of homes for sale. Offer staging advice. So, and then the same target audience, then ask them to buy and sell with you.
Yeah, you're so absolutely right about that. We took a completely different approach. You know how right now you go to all these different coaches' websites and they're selling online courses like crazy. Everybody has an online course. It's this much for, this 6-week course, 12-week course, whatever. We took the exact opposite approach. We said, you know what? We're going to give it away for free. We're going to put out great blog posts, and we're not talking about a 5-minute blog post. When we talk about how to hold a client event, I'm not going to give you 5 minutes of, here's some quick tidbits on how to hold a client event. Let me give you an hour-long video on exactly what to do, start to finish, with checklists, free downloads, every single thing you could possibly imagine, everything you could possibly need for free. And it's funny because I actually had an assistant one day that came to me and she said to me, well, Michael, if we give everything away for free, they're not going to need us for coaching. I said, no, you don't understand. When you give them the very best stuff for free over and over and over and over again, you become the resource. And now they say, man, if they're giving me this for free, imagine what they're going to do when I'm paying them for coaching. It's a whole different mindset, and I think that's a massive difference today versus even just 5 years ago.
And by the way, it also goes for price, how much you're going to charge for something. So if you're going into a listing appointment, and you tell them what your commission is, and they try to talk you down, especially with an expired, well, my last agent charged me X, and your last agent didn't sell the house. I'm going to charge you a little more, and I'm going to get you more money, and I'm going to sell the house faster, right? That's the difference. You get what you pay for. So, you know, it also comes to coaching and other tools that agents buy. If something's too inexpensive, people are going to be like, why is that so cheap? It can't be that good. But if it's priced just right, and you could be like, wow, it's not, it's not too low, it's not too high, but it's perfect, and it's got to have some value to it. Like, it's all, there's so many different ways to look at value and pricing and how much you're going to pay for something, and it can make you crazy, I think. But
it's interesting you say that, though, because the old adage really is true today still, and that is that price is only an issue in the absence of value. And it's interesting because I can tell you, I talk to top agents every day all around the country. And when I say top agents, I'm talking about people that are doing 300, 400, 500, 1,000 and more transactions a year. And let me tell you, these folks aren't cutting their commissions. They're charging 7%, and they're getting a transaction processing fee. Oh, and they're doing buyer's agency agreements, and they're getting a $495 fee on their buyer agency agreement, in addition to the 3.5% that they charge under. I mean, this is the mindset shift that's really dangerous in our business right now, is that there are so many agents right now that are willing to just cut their commission just to get that deal. And the reality is, if the sellers really knew, they would understand that I'm getting what I'm paying for. If I'm getting a discounter, if they're not strong enough to negotiate for their own commission, how are they going to be strong enough to negotiate for the price of my home?
So Michael,
I just want to make one more comment.
But what does that mean? I mean, explain it to us. Bring value. What does it mean?
So what does bring value mean? Is that what you said?
Yeah, because we always hear it from everybody. Oh, bring value. You should have a value proposition. What does that mean to you? Explain it to the audience.
Well, you're talking two different things. There's a difference between my value proposition and bringing actual value. Those are two very different things. So
what does bring value mean to you?
Okay.
And later, what's your value proposition? Because that's how you start marketing and bringing people in.
All right, I love that. All right, so let's talk first about the bringing value. How do I bring value? First and foremost, one of the things you've got to do is you've got to wow clients at every opportunity. We're actually getting ready to publish a series of blog posts on all these different ways that you can wow a client. And I'll tell you, and it's really sad to say this, but in today's world, sometimes just answering your phone or returning a phone call is wowing a client, because so few agents actually even do that. That's embarrassing for us as an industry. Yeah. That being said, now I also want to make sure that for every listing and for every buyer, on each one of those, I want to make sure that I've got at least 10 to 30 wow points throughout that transaction. Very, very important. So I need to bring real value here. And when I'm talking about a wow point, it might be anything like I'm going to put a bow on the front door the day they move in, a big, huge bow. Or I might stock all the, I might put a whole bunch of, toiletries and toilet paper and paper towels and cleaning supplies and brooms and mops and all this stuff in the house, so that when they move in, they've got all that because they probably forgot it. Or maybe I go out and I buy them a pizza on moving day, and I've got my big sticker on the pizza and all this stuff, but I've got to have these wow items, right? So I've got to really start thinking about this like Disney does, and this is probably the best example, is when you do anything Disney, there's a level of expectation. It's not just I'm going to go to Disneyland. It's I'm going to experience Disneyland. You become a part of the overall experience. And when real estate agents start to figure that out, they'll start to be bringing actual value. Nobody cares about your market analysis. They care that you made them feel like a part of the transaction and like they were cared for every step of the way, and that they were in good hands along the way. So I think in terms of bringing actual value, that's step one. Now, in terms of your value proposition, now we're talking about things like my USP, my unique selling proposition. Some people call it a POD, a point of differentiation. There's lots of things you can call it, but at the end of the day, some people think that it's, oh, well, I'm the #1 agent in my market. Well, nobody cares. Nobody cares about that. Or I'm a $1 million producer. Well, that's great because it must have been a nice house. We're the only industry I'm aware of that gives awards to people for being broke. Nobody cares about your awards. What do they care about? That you want to do something really strategic. You want to do something that's really going to be a value proposition. Reverse the risk. So everybody in the internet marketing world knows what risk reversal is. In the real estate world, nobody has a clue what it is. If I'm going to reverse risk in this scenario, I'm going to say, I'm going to guarantee I'm going to sell your home, or my commission's free. I'm going to guarantee I'll sell your home, or I'll buy it. Or maybe you do a guarantee like maybe you say, buy this home from me, I'll sell yours for free. There's all these different USPs or points. Go ahead, Nick.
That's an interesting and very controversial topic because lots of agents think it's a gimmick, right? But I don't think it's a gimmick. I think if you can do it, you got to that level where you can do that, where you can give a commission away if you don't sell the house. You can buy a house if you don't sell it yourself. If you're at that point, you've earned it, and you should by all means take that route.
I agree 100%. And I'll tell you what, if I'm a seller today, and Nick, you come over to my house, and you're not confident enough in your services to guarantee me that you're going to sell my house in a certain period of time, if I do everything you're going to tell me to do, and you don't sell it in that period of time, or you'll do it for free, if you're not that confident in you, why should I be that confident in you? Why should I take a risk on you that you're not willing to take on yourself?
Yep.
And by the way, I would...
Some of the biggest teams in the country have that guarantee. So
actually, not only some. What's that, Tristan?
We do see that a lot with the big teams, I was saying. But my challenge is this. I'm in Malibu, and I delve into
Tristan
Beverly
can buy a $13 million house if he doesn't sell it.
You know, it gets a little scary when I say, hey, I'm going to buy your home at $10 million.
Listen, if your house doesn't sell in 10 years, I'll be dead, and then I won't have to buy it.
So here's the thing, Tristan, don't use I'll buy it. Instead of using I'll buy it, use I'll sell it for free. You know, and then to be honest with you, if I had to pick between the two, I used to use I'll buy it, but today if I had to pick between the two, I'd choose sell it for free. Go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
Can you imagine selling that a $13 million house for free? If I don't sell this,
well, yes. If it does come to it and you do advertise it the right way, like I sold it for free because
yes.
That's huge. I could see that working really well.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I would love, if I'm you, if I'm Tristan in Malibu, I want to screw one up. I absolutely want to blow it, and I want to get those folks on camera one time. But I want to take those folks, I want to get them on camera as a testimonial saying, hey, man, Tristan said he'd sell it in 90 days or he'd sell it for free, and he screwed it up, and it took him 103 days to sell it. But guess what? He held true to his word, and he sold it for free. Dude, where do I sign? I want to work with that guy.
Can you imagine posting that all over Facebook?
Oh,
that would be sick.
Unbelievable. Now check this out, Tristan. You said a lot of teams, the bigger teams, are using guarantees like this. Not just a lot of them. I would venture to say that virtually, I would say well over 80% of the teams in the country that are listing and selling over, I'm going to say over 400 homes a year, more than 80% of those teams, even over 300 homes a year, more than 80% of those teams are using a guaranteed sale type USP. Well, and most of those are using guaranteed or I'll buy it, or it's free.
Why should it be any different? Why should it be any different than anything else we see? You know, if you don't, you see on TV, if you don't like this, return it, money back guarantee. You know, if you're not happy after 60 days, money back guarantee. Why should we be different? We're still selling a product. And if we don't do what we say we're going to do, it only makes sense.
I agree 100%. The problem is right here. The problem is that most agents that aren't producing at that level, they have that mindset. And I'm not saying that that's for everybody, right? There's plenty of agents that are in Tier 1 right now that have the right mindset. Their production hasn't caught up with their mindset yet. So please don't be offended when I talk about people in terms of production and that sort of thing. But I will tell you this: to get to that level takes that mindset shift, no matter how you slice it. You have to get your head around risk reversal. You have to get your head around, look, I have to be different than everybody else. And telling everybody that I'm going to give you a free online evaluation, that's not different. Nobody cares about that anymore. It's worn out.
Yeah, agree. I can talk about that guaranteed sale all day. I think it's so interesting.
Happy to talk about it. I mean, listen, I got to tell you this. Watch this. Here's another good one. Buy from me and move for free. We've got clients that are using that are doing really well with it.
Buy from me and move for free. So you pay for their moving? Is that?
Yeah.
You've got a moving truck. Nice. That'd be awesome. Good one. I like it.
Yeah.
So there's a question here from the group, people who are watching the video. So they just want to know how many agents? Do you primarily coach individual agents, or do you do both teams and single agents?
It depends on what level they're at. So we have different
You know,
coaches for each level. So we have Tier 1 coaches that specialize in agents who are just solo agents, and then once they've got a full-time assistant and 2 full-time buyer's agents, now they're in, you know, that's pretty much when you get into Tier 2, and then we've got coaches that are specific for that. I coach our Tier 4 clients, so like Tristan and Amanda, you know, the really the higher level folks that are already doing over $1 million a year in GCI. Those are the ones that I coach, and they've got big teams, and now they're doing expansion teams. That's the big thing now in Tier 4. We're doing a ton of work with expansion teams and growing into different markets. And by the way, I'm going to tell everyone, I'm going to put it. Here's my prediction. My prediction right now is that Amanda Todd. I hope you're watching this, Amanda, and if you are, I love you. I hope you're watching this. My prediction is that Amanda Todd and her team will have over 200 expansion agents within the next 2 years. That's my guess. That's my prediction.
Huge, man.
Yeah, she's killing it. So, but you know, go ahead, Tristan.
No, I said I love it, man. That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. But you know, and so the answer to the question, Nick, is yes. There are coaches that specialize in teams, and there's coaches that specialize in agents that are brand new to the business, and everything in between.
Perfect. Nick, you got a good question, man. I love this question that you're going to ask.
Who?
You.
Me?
You got a question you can ask.
Hold on. I X'd out of the question page because I was looking at the group. Oh, you ask a question first, Tristan, while I open this back up.
All right. I'll skip the good question. I'll still let you ask that one. Here's my question. Michael.
I got it. It's coming back.
I got it. Shoot.
Open it up. Okay. 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 Yeah. This is a good one.
We asked this one to everybody. So
this is one for everybody, and it's actually like one of my favorites. So I know the answer to this already because I think the word balance is it's a tough word. It's not the right word for this, you know. But does that really exist in real estate? Can you really have, you know, everyone's like, oh, it's a 24-hour day, 7-day week, 365. Oh, I'm always on. There's so many people that I feel like brag about. Well, I didn't go to bed till 4 in the morning, and then I woke up an hour later. I wrote 6 offers, and I'm never sleeping, and I'm never stopping. And I'm like, well, that's good for you. I don't know why you're proud of that. You know, do you think a good balance could really exist in real estate for family time, work time, workout? I look at somebody like Jill Price. Jill Price is in our group. She's an agent in RE/MAX. And last year she had a goal for herself. She sold 52 homes in 52 weeks. And she just competed in like her first fitness competition. So, I mean, that mindset is incredible. She's a single mom. She was able to get the mindset to compete in a fitness competition. She came in second, and she sold 52 homes in 52 weeks last year. So, like, can everybody have that? That's the question.
Well, I'm going to go back to Amanda Todd, and I like to bring up Amanda because she's in the lab coach. She's the Motivational Mondays girl, and she is it. Let me tell you, Amanda, single mom. Okay, here she is, and we call her the millionaire mom, right? So here's Amanda, single mom, has balance in her life, and by the way, is killing it. 3rd year in the business, 65 pending transactions right now. That's insane, right? 3rd year in the business. Now check this out. I want everybody to write this down. If you guys are watching this and say, oh, you only get one thing out of today, this is what I want you all to get. Write it down. No success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. No success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. Now check this out. Every single coaching client we bring on, they have to commit to taking 1 full day off per week. And I know one that's having a hard time with the Facebook part. I'm not going to rat him out because he's on this webinar and it's not Nick. But I will tell you that you got to commit to taking 1 full day off per week. Because let me tell you,
I got to tell you, that's a huge challenge for me. There's people out there who take days off. Guess what? I don't. I don't take days off.
I always yell at Tristan for not taking days off.
I don't text or call clients after 7. Guess what? I text clients all through the night. And
Dude,
it's something I do, man. It's just something, and I'm actually proud to say that I do it. Some people are like, I love taking time off, and I love doing this. That's great for you. But if it's working for you, great. For me, I'm happy doing what I do.
So Tristan, here's the thing. Here's what I want you to think about, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but this is what I really hope people are tuning in on, is it's not about, I have to take a specific time off. What I need you to do, though, and what really you guys need to be thinking about is I'm going to time block my time in such a way that when I'm with my family, I'm not answering the phone. I'm with my family. When I'm at work, I'm not screwing around with my family. I'm at work.
That's different.
When I learn to segregate those two, I'm able to take, and when I've built the right team, I've got the right people around me, like Brian Curtis, he's one of our coaches. He's a perfect example. He started coaching with me. I brought him on as a coaching client in 2016. In 2015. In 2014, he made $225,000, had not had a day off in 3.5 years. When he came to coach with me in February, yeah, it's crazy, right? But not uncommon. So, and he's a Keller Williams agent too, by the way. So we started coaching in February. I said, dude, you got to take a day off each week. Got to take a day off each week no matter what. So he says, okay, fine, I'll trust you. I'm going to take Sundays off. So Brian starts taking every Sunday off, and he didn't stop there. He says, I'm going to take most of my Saturdays off, and I'm going to take most of my evenings off. His production went from 225 to 650 in 7 months. That's his GCI, went from 225 to 650 in 7 months. And now he's crushing. I mean, he's selling literally 30 or 40 homes a month right now, and he's taking more time off than ever. Last week, he decides, you know what? I'm a little burned out. I'm going to take 6 days off. I'm going to take my wife, Lisa. We're going to go down to Cabo San Lucas. How much do you think he worked while he was down there? Dude didn't even leave the room. He and his wife enjoyed time completely disconnected from everybody.
Well, he's got the systems in place too, man. So, look, I get it. I get it. I'm not going to let this be a coaching call, though, because I see where it's heading. So,
listen, I'll tell you something, Michael.
That part go, though.
Listen,
I did install something into our whole system.
Wait a minute. If I wanted to be married,
so check out Riley.
House.
Product. Nick just got it too. Check out Riley. How do you check, dude? Have you heard of Riley, Michael?
No.
Oh my gosh, it's getrileynow.com. That's all I'm gonna say.
Kristen, if you get Riley, then you don't need to work.
Exactly. Getrileynow.com. All right. Let's go into the next question. Michael, that was a really good point, though. That was good. So, for an agent that has gone a little stale in the business, they've been in it for a while, but it's kind of hit something, and they're like, yeah, I'm happy where I'm at. At least they think they're happy where they're at. What would you say they can do to snap out of that? Because I don't think that's a healthy thing.
I agree that that's not a healthy thing, and the first thing you got to do is, look, I might be happy where I'm at, but let me tell you, that's the most selfish thing you can say. Because if you're happy where you're at, are you really bringing the value to the rest of the world that you need to be bringing to the rest of the world? So the first thing I'm looking at, if I'm happy, if I'm complacent with where I'm at, it probably means I'm making just enough money to pay me bills. Maybe I'm making a lot. Maybe I'm super successful like a Tristan Ahumada and I'm making a ton of money. But ask yourself this question: is that really what God put me here for? Did God really just put me here to enjoy my life and to make a bunch of money and buy a bunch of houses and cars and whatever? Or am I here for a greater purpose? Is there something I can be doing to leave a greater legacy than just I made a bunch of money? And I think that's, for a lot of people, a good starting point for when you're at that point where you're complacent. And even if it's not everybody else out there, maybe it's your family. Are you really doing what you need to do for your kids, for your family? Are you growing as an individual? One of the things I truly believe is that we are here on this planet primarily to learn. And if we're not constantly learning and growing, we are missing our calling in life. We need to continually be learning and growing.
Nice, man. That's a complete answer. I like it. Nick, you're up, buddy.
Okay.
It's kind of like the opposite question that I just asked.
Yeah. Okay, so Tristan asked about the agents that kind of are getting a little stale in the business, right? But for those who are doing the opposite, they're just like killing it, crushing it every single day, what would you recommend that they do to crush it even more?
Well, you got to, again, it comes back to your why, right? I mean, all of us have to have a really strong why, and everybody loves to say my why is my kids. Well, is it really? Well, why is that your why? You know, it's funny when I have this conversation with our coaching clients, we go super deep, and people will tell me, you know, oh, well, this is why, and then I'll say, okay, well, why? And well, it's because my kids, you know, I want to do this for my kids. Well, why? Well, because I want them to be able to go to college. Well, why do you want them to be able to go to college? I mean, you got to go to the benefit of the benefit of the benefit of the benefit. You got to dig super, super deep to really dial in what is your real why. And a lot of it has to do with, for most of us, it's something fear-based a lot of times. A lot of us are more motivated by fear than we are for hope for gain. So if I'm that top producer and I think I've got my why, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in, I'm going to reanalyze my why, and then kind of like we said a minute ago, we're going to go back in and we're going to say, first of all, do I have a powerful enough why, and then am I really bringing the value to the world that I can be bringing? So if I just, for example, I've got a team, I've got 20 people on my team, or 50 people, or if I'm Ben Kinney, maybe I got 3,000 people on my team. I don't know how many he's got right now. But regardless of how many people you've got on your team, there's always more you can do. And more does not mean working more. It means bringing more value. So how do I do that? I got to look at my team and I got to ask myself, okay, is John achieving his goals? Is Susie hitting her goals? And I'm not just talking about professionally. What about in their business goals, their financial goals, their spiritual goals? Are they hitting their goals in all 5 key areas of their life? And if they're not, what can I do to help them accomplish that?
Wait, what are the 5 key areas?
What's that?
What are the 5 key areas?
So you got your business, your financial, your health, your physical and mental health, your family, and you've got your spiritual. All 5 of those areas have to be cultivated at all times. And if any one of those areas is out of balance at any point in time, everything's out of balance. So, and it doesn't mean you're going to have significance in each area. You might start off at struggle in some of those areas and get to survival, and maybe you're at, success in some of them, but they're all going to be in different points. But the key is you've got to cultivate all of them, and the way you ensure that you're cultivating all of them is you set your priorities straight. We're getting ready to do a blog post on the perfect daily schedule and how to really, truly time block your day so that you're hitting your goal. What's that?
Can you tag me on that so I can read it?
Oh, for sure. Oh, absolutely. But you've got to make sure that your perfect daily schedule matches your priorities. You can't just go in and say, well, I'm going to work here and I'm going to blah, blah, blah there. No, you've got to decide first what your priorities are. Then you take priority number 1 and you put it in your perfect daily schedule. Then priority number 2, put that in your, and you set recurring day appointments for these things so that alarms are going off. And it's got to be your electronic schedule. It's got to be Google Calendar, iCal, Outlook, whatever. But now these alarms are going off and telling you, okay, well, it's time to work out, or it's time to prospect, or it's time to go spend time with your kids. Whatever it is that's important to you, you got to make sure that's in there, and that alarms are going off to ensure that you're doing it.
Wow. All right. Good stuff, man. All right, so there's a book out there that's called, well, I think it's called Good to Great or From Good to Great, something along those lines.
It's Good to Great.
Yeah, there you go.
Great book.
It reminds me of you, dude. And what do you think is the difference from a good agent to a great agent? What's that thing? We go back to this all the time because it's just another question that we're asking that's rephrased from a previous question. But what's the difference from good to great?
Number 1, first and foremost, it's up here. It's mindset. I mean, it's not necessarily good to great doesn't necessarily mean production, right? I mean, it can. You could say a good agent does 100 deals a year and a great agent does 1,000 deals a year. What you could say that maybe, but there's great agents out there that do 100 deals a year, but they're a fantastic agent. So first and foremost, it's mindset. You've got to have a servant's heart. You really have to care about people. And I don't say that in a cliche way. I mean, you really have to understand that relationships are more important than transactions. When you get that through your head and you start taking care of relationships instead of worrying about transactions, the transactions follow. Assuming you do the work necessary in the meantime. So I would say first it's mindset, and then the second thing I would say is it's habits, and that's the difference. It's easy to be a good agent and have sloppy habits. I mean, I can be in some markets, I could be in a high-end market like a Malibu or a San Diego or some of these other high-end markets, and I could still be a pretty sloppy agent in terms of my habits and my mindset and still do pretty well. And so if I want to be great, I got to get my mindset right, I got to get my habits right, and the rest just kind of works itself out.
There's plenty of okay agents that make a lot of money. That's the sad part.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, Nick, you're up. 2 more questions and we're done, man.
This is a really good question for a lot of people. At what point? Well, I have a couple questions, but I'll start with the first one. At what point do we hire an assistant? It's like probably the scariest time, especially for a newer agent, to start paying somebody else. At what point do they need to start doing that?
Okay, so when I was 21 years old, so I took 2 years off after getting into the business. I took 2 years off to go serve a mission for my church, the Mormon church, and while I was gone, I had 2 years to think about what I wanted my business to look like, and I decided one thing: no matter what, the first thing I was going to do when I got back, I was going to hire a coach. And so the very first thing I did when I got back from my mission, I landed, I got my credit card out. I didn't have the money, but I went and took my credit card out, and I hired Mike Ferry as my coach. It was great. Best thing I ever did at that point in my career. First thing Mike says to me, looks me straight in the eye, and he says, Michael, if you don't have an assistant, you are one. So guess what I did? I went out and I hired an assistant right then. I didn't have the funds for it. I didn't know how I was going to pay for her. I was going to have to commit to paying her more than I'd ever made in a year in my life at that point. And yet I did it, and it was the best thing I ever did. So is that going to be right for everybody? No, not necessarily, because there's a lot of agents out there that have no business having an assistant. I don't know if if one agent is going to should have an assistant or not until I really talk to them.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I gotta get going, Tristan. Yep. I gotta run. I gotta deal with some real estate stuff.
No problem, buddy. Jump out.
Okay. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Right on. See you, bud. So anyway, long story short, the whole assistant question, it really comes down to, as quickly as I possibly can, I want to get an assistant on my team, assuming I plan on growing my business. If I'm happy where I'm at, I may not need an assistant. I may not be able to afford an assistant. So don't just go hire one just to hire one. But if you're serious about the business and you're going to grow your business, get one as quickly as possible.
Dude, yeah, I think that's one of the biggest questions. At what stage do we get an assistant? Do you recommend that we share an assistant too with another agent if we can't afford it?
If you can't, well, there's a couple of ways to look at this, because sharing an assistant could look like a transactional-based TC or listing coordinator, where you're paying a fee per transaction, and that works in some scenarios. But I would prefer to see you, and yes, I'm okay with that. If I said I'm going to take a full-time assistant, I'm gonna use her 4 hours a day. You're going to use her 4 hours a day. We're going to save a little bit of money. If that's what it takes to get each of you an assistant and get things happening, I'm okay with that. I can live with that. At the end of the day, you need to offload those tasks that you're not great at, and you need to focus on the tasks that pay the most money, which is voice to voice and face to face with potential clients.
All right, and then one second part to the question is, you mentioned tier 2, that's where you would hire an assistant. How do you know you're in tier 2?
Actually, really, you want to hire an assistant while you're in tier 1. In order to go from tier 1 into tier 2, you're going to need an assistant. And so the number one goal of, I would say, 90% of our coaching clients, not all of them, some of them don't want to ever grow a team. That's fine. But I would say the goal of 90% of our coaching clients that are in tier 1 is get that first assistant, and then immediately after that, they're going to get their first 2 buyer's agents. And that's paramount for their success. You got to get to the first. Okay, go ahead.
How do you know how much to pay an assistant?
You ask. Here's the thing. Most people I shouldn't say most. Depends on your market. In California, there are a lot of people overpaying, and they don't know how to pay them. One of the biggest mistakes that I'm seeing, even big agents, I'm seeing this with a lot of my big team leaders, that they're taking an administrative assistant who's an SC or a CS, or they're not a DI or an ID. They're taking people that have a very different way of looking at the world, and they're paying them a bonus per transaction. And the fact of the matter is, for most administrative assistant, that doesn't motivate them. We would think it would, because it motivates us, but the reality is it doesn't motivate most of our administrative assistants. So that's not what they're looking for. What do they want? They want security. They want a regular paycheck. They want to know that they're going to be able to pay their bills every month, month in and month out. So provide them with that security, and you're going to be better off than providing them with a bonus per transaction, for example. Makes
sense, dude. All right, last question. Well, almost last question. have you ever had a losing streak? And if you did, how did you turn it around? Because
oh my gosh,
we all have losing streaks.
Yep, I have, and let me tell you, I think every one of us continues to have losing streaks. We go through phases in our life where we have a losing streak, and what you have to understand is first you got to get your mind straight. First thing I do if I'm on a losing streak is I take a vacation. I got to disconnect. Yeah, get gone. I got to get gone because I got to get my head straight. And that more often than not, when we're having a challenge or when we're in a losing streak, it's because we have convinced ourselves that something about us or something about our system is broken, and that's not always the case. So I get gone. Then once I get my mindset straight, I come back, I'm revitalized, I've got more energy. And for some of you might be thinking, well, Michael, I can't take a vacation. I can't afford to take a vacation. Look, take the weekend off. Just go drive someplace. If you can't afford to drive someplace, walk someplace. Do what you got to do. But take an overnight, one night, sleep somewhere besides your house and just disconnect. Then when I come back, now I'm ready to refocus, and I need to understand that it may or may not be something that's broken in my system, but I need to come back to remembering that every no leads me to a yes. And so I'm going to go back and I am going to look at my systems. I'm going to say, what was I doing when I was successful? When I was back in that time that I was hitting it out of the park, what was I doing differently than I'm doing today? And what things about that period of time do I think are the things that caused that success that I'm not doing today? And so I'll do some reassessment. But again, most of it, it's up here.
All right, man. All right, last question. Obviously, you started Club Wealth. Where do we go to join Club Wealth, or if people have questions, where do they go?
I'd say the best starting point is just rather than saying, hey, I want to sign up for Club Wealth or something like that, because let's date before we dance. Let's date before we get married kind of thing, right? Just do a strategy session with us. It's not a sales pitch. Just get involved. Go to Club Wealth. Let's see, where is it? Right here. Go to clubwealth.com/strategy session. So, and you can just go to our website and scroll down. There's links for that on there. But do a strategy session with me or one of our other coaches, and just let's talk about your business. Let's find out what's working for you, what's not working for you. Let us give you some advice on where we think you can make some changes to kind of take your year to the next level. And then at the end of that, and by the way, that's a no pitch call. At the end of that call, if you want to ask us about coaching, ask us. If you don't ask us, we're not going to push you into it. But if you're interested at that point, just ask us. We'll tell you all about it.
Perfect, man. Anything else you want to add as we finish? I just posted the link.
Right on. So here's the thing. The one thing that I want to leave y'all with is don't let your head get messed up by everybody else's opinion. You can do whatever you decide to do in any market. So I don't care if you're in Malibu or Topeka, Kansas, you can do whatever you decide to do because you have decided to do it. You can do it right now in this economy. You can do it in your marketplace. And don't cop out with the, oh, that won't work in my market. Yes, it will. You just have to implement. And if you'll just do that, you guys, you can have all the success in the world, and you can have time with your kids or whatever it is you like to do. You can have that balance in your life. So just think about this. I always tell people this. Inside each one of us, there is a world-class person dying to come out. Doesn't matter what I've done wrong in the past. Doesn't matter who I am today. There's somebody world-class inside me that's dying to get out. Unleash that beast. Make it happen. Let that world-class person shine. And it may not work every day, but make it shine as often as you can. And guess what? You will have all that you want and more.
Thank you, man. That was a really great way to end it. Just want to thank Brandon Bradley from Infinity Networks. He's the one that allows us to go to YouTube Live and then stream it into Facebook. I know you've connected with him. So thank you, Brandon. Appreciate it. Thank you, Michael. That was awesome, man. Appreciate that.
Right on. Thanks for having me, Tristan. Seriously. And thank you, Brandon. And thank you, Nick. I know that Nick had to run, but thank you for having me.
Thanks, man.